Welcome back, everybody, to Rides and Drives Team Radio. I'm Harvey. I'm here with Kaz, and even though it's not May yet, we are in the month of May when it comes to IndyCar racing because there's nothing between us and the Indy GP and then the Indy 500 on the calendar.
Yeah, when you talk about IndyCar racing in May, you kind of have to shift your calendar a little bit. As soon as we have nothing standing between us and the road course race, I think it's fair to say Indy season is on. And
Yes.
We're really excited about it. They don't call it the greatest spectacle in racing for no reason. It's so much fun. And today, I've seen comments online from a lot. I'm really gratified by this. I've seen comments online from a lot of Formula One fans, different open wheel racing series fans who are checking out IndyCar this year. I think part of that is due to Fox Promotions. I think part of that is due to the fact that Formula One fans have nothing to do right now. But we're seeing a lot of people approaching the 500 in a really excited way with new, fresh eyes. And there are so many things about the 500 that are unique. And one of them is the faces we get to see. So we thought we'd talk today about the drivers who will be entering the 500 who are not a member of our regular grid order.
Right. Yeah. We've got obviously 25 drivers who show up every week to all the races, but there are 33 cars that compete at the Indianapolis 500. So we have 8 more drivers to talk about. A lot of these are familiar faces to people who are race fans and certainly IndyCar fans because a number of them are Indy 500 winners. But it's a really interesting group. And I just thought, we thought it would be great to talk about these folks, what they bring to the race, what their history is. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk about just the idea of 33 cars starting the Indy 500 and why that is and kind of how that's evolved over the years.
Yeah. For me,
Yeah.
look, I've watched the 500 many times. I just take for granted there are more cars in the 500 than there are in any other race. I've never really delved into why, but you
Well,
have.
I have. Here's why. Because back in 1934, the Automobile Association of America decided that for safety reasons, you could only have one car for every 400 feet of track. So being 2.5 miles long, that meant they could run 33 cars in Indianapolis. Before that, they ran all kinds of numbers of cars. There were 42 cars that started the race in 1933. So it's not like that it was, a magic number ordained from the start. It was something that evolved because they wanted to improve safety. And when you look at the race and how it's run, it does feel about right. I mean, they didn't have the same kind of science and data, and cars were running maybe 100 miles an hour back in 1934. I could go back and look and see what the winning speed was. But, now that they're running, 200 miles an hour, it makes so much sense to have a limited field for safety's sake.
We get so much action with the 33 we have.
Yes.
Yeah. Safety is of paramount importance. We discuss this all the time. So that's a great reason for limiting it. Why do we want more cars at Indy?
Well, more than 33 to
Well,
register?
why do we want more than the standard 25?
Oh, why more? Because it's Indy. It's the
'Cause
greatest
it's fun.
spectacle. Yeah, it's the greatest spectacle in racing. And you want as many people as can be in the field as possible. Now, the interesting thing is, there are 33 spaces, and typically there are more entrants than spaces. This year, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But
Yeah.
in the past, there have been, I think, in 1984, there were over 100 registered cars for the race. Now, not 100 showed up for qualifying because a lot of those cars that were registered and they changed the rule were backup cars and things like that. But
Dad, why didn't you have me before 1984? I would have loved to watch this. You've
yeah,
got to be kidding me. Missed
bump
out by
day,
a couple of years.
yeah, bump day was a real thing back in the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, when there were multiple cars, multiple engines, all of that. And so, what would happen is you'd have a bunch of cars register more than 33, but there are only 33 spaces. So qualifying is Saturday. You qualify the top 30 cars, and the last three spaces were left for what was called bump day. And that's anyone who didn't make it into that top 30, they were fighting for those last three places. And, there could be 10, 15 cars back in the day competing for
Mhm.
those spaces. Now, typically for the last, 10 years or so, since it has evolved, the series has evolved, um, it's typically been 35, 36 cars that have
I've
been
never seen a bump day live with more than 36.
right.
So
And
still wildly exciting,
the
but
reason why that is now is because of the engine limitations.
okay.
Each manufacturer makes only so many engines. So there are only so many Chevy engines available and only so many Honda engines available. They're not going to make 50 engines each so we could have 100 potential cars,
Mhm.
only to have three of those, extra 50 cars not make the field, right?
So an additional engine manufacturer would be beneficial here.
Yeah,
We
would
love that we love the Honda Chevy fight. It's great.
right.
But
But
this
if
is this
say
is a
for
good argument for more engine
Yeah,
manufacturers.
say for the sake of argument, Ford came in and, you
Mhm.
had then on a typical, race weekend, 27, maybe 30 cars, right?
Mhm.
And so you'd have 10, 10, and 10, but then each could say throw five in for the 500. And then all of a sudden you got 15 cars competing for three spots, which would be crazy exciting.
Really would. Yeah, really would,
So
guys.
yeah, so qualifying just again to remind people for the 500 on Saturday is the first qualifying day, and that's where the top 30 cars get locked into the field. Now, the top
Mhm.
12 cars, their positions can change, but 13 through 30 are locked in if there are more than 33 cars registered. If, however, there are only 33 or fewer cars registered to run in the 500, then 13 through 33 positions get locked in on Saturday. And on Sunday, you run the Fast 12 and then the Fast 6 shootout for the pole. So we still have an exciting second day of racing.
Just because there's no bump, the Fast 12 and Fast 6 shootout in past years have given us a lot to be excited about. So yeah, you're
Right.
right. I love a bump day, but it's okay. We can't have one every year. We'll take a deep breath and be fine, I guess. And
Exactly.
part of why I can still be excited without having the excitement of a bump day is because we've got a whole ton of faces that I love that we don't get to talk about other than around the Indy 500. So let's start taking a look. Let's start with our more regular fixtures on the
Sure.
track, shall we say? For me,
Yeah.
when it comes to the Indy 500, I am always looking forward to a chance to see Takuma Sato drive again.
Yes. Two-time Indy 500 winner.
Hmm.
And he is just a oval specialist. I mean, he is so much fun to watch on this track, and he will be competitive. I have no doubt that he will
So
be competitive on this
So
race.
Takuma has won with Andretti and with RLL. He won with Andretti in 2017 and Rahal Letterman Lanigan in 2020. Um, that's a proof that he's capable of winning the race. He's been able to do it with a couple of teams. The reason I'm particularly excited for Takuma this year, though, is because last year he was driving the RLL. He qualified second and led the most laps.
Hmm.
Now, timing of cautions just didn't really work for him last year. It was a race that ultimately he wasn't in the position to win at the last minute, but he still gave us a really, really great show in what was last year at this time. Last year's RLL was not really anything to be excited about.
Right.
But this year, when we're looking at the RLL car, we saw some really promising stuff last week. I know we're looking at a completely different track type, but we also can't forget that both Graham and Mick Schumacher qualified very well at Phoenix in their
Right.
car. Not surprised that Mick couldn't hold his position, but Graham did. So to me, that says he's looking at a race with a maybe a more reliable vehicle than he saw last year. His last win here was only 6 years ago.
Right.
I, I'm really excited for Takuma this year. I think this might be his best chance in a while.
Well, it's interesting because the odds makers are fairly excited. They have him 10th.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
So,
look at any of these odds beforehand. Tell me all the odds. I'm really excited to learn them. 10th
okay.
is 10th is great for Takuma. And honestly, yeah, if I'm ranking who I think is likely to win the 500, I probably do put him in the top 10.
Yeah, let's talk about these after we go through all
Yeah,
the drivers, but I just thought that was interesting that Takuma would be that high in the order for odds makers in Vegas. So,
he's a
um
wildly capable guy. I every year I get excited to see him race again.
speaking of capable racers, there's a four-time Indy 500
Yeah, there
winner
is.
coming in,
Yeah,
and
there
that's
is.
Helio Castroneves. He is going to be driving for Meyer Shank Racing,
Hmm.
and we saw
Another
this.
team that's on the up has
Yeah,
some good machinery for him to work with.
exactly. So I really think that we're going to see, him put some real interesting effort forward in the month of May.
When was his last 500 win, Harvey?
The last time Helio Castroneves won the Indy 500 was 2021. So again, not that long ago. But here's the interesting fact. He's won it four times. His very first IndyCar win was at the 2001 Indy 500.
I
So
love when a guy wins the 500 first. Like what a first win to have. That makes me so excited.
exactly. And obviously he was driving for Penske, had the car, had the
Mm.
team, but he put the race in, won the race. He's a very popular champion. And again, he's going to be someone that you've got to keep your eye out for in this race.
2021 is not that long ago. The fact that he was able to win a 500 that recently speaks very well to where he still is as a driver. And again, we're looking at a team that's giving him better machinery than he had last year. So I'm excited to see what he comes up with. For all of our new fans, for reference, the driver who replaced Castroneves at Team Penske, and you know, that doesn't necessarily drivers get replaced. It is
Right.
what it is. The driver who replaced him is Will Power. So
Yeah.
to me that he's a legacy seat. Like this is a guy who has won so much and could only be replaced by a guy like Will.
Yeah.
It
And it
just
wasn't like he was replaced and
yeah,
then went away. Penske took him and put him in their sports car championship as
yeah.
one of their drivers. And he's won the 24 Hours of Daytona and a number of other races.
Hmm.
So it's not like he has just been sitting on the sidelines showing up every year at Indy.
That was my little flub there. I was hesitant to use the word replaced because it doesn't like Will taking that seat doesn't mean Helio wasn't still driving well. It
Right.
was just like, okay, it's a similar to Will and Maluka's situation where our guy is ready. We got to put him there.
Right.
Um, hey, Penske. Yeah, okay. You have a pattern. Good job.
Yeah. Let's
Um,
see, David, what
yeah,
happens.
David. Yeah,
No pressure.
you got a lot to live up to here now that I'm really thinking about that. Um,
Yeah.
regardless, really excited to see Helio drive. We have another really great 500 entrant in Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Yes, another Indy 500 winner. A solid driver who did win the drivers' championship as well.
Hmm.
So, and he's filling out that McLaren seat. He basically is the driver coach for all the McLaren drivers this year as well.
Yep. I love Ryan Hunter-Reay's entry. Now, his last Indy 500 victory, his last and only, it was in 2012. So this is not a guy who's not to say he hasn't shown us skill recently, because obviously he has. He hasn't reached that top step recently. But like you said, he works really heavily with the McLaren drivers, and I really like this not just for his entry, but I like it for the other McLaren drivers in the
Yeah,
field. It's got to feel great racing with your mentor. I like
right.
that about this.
Plus, it gives McLaren one more car in the field, more
Mhm.
data, and just that opportunity to maybe help Pato.
And you know what? I really like when a three car team decides to enter a fourth entrant, in particular when it's a mentor type position. How great for Pato to know that the guy who helps him race is there on the track with him. And again, we say this all the time, just for our Formula One fans, there are no team orders in IndyCar. Ryan Hunter-Reay is not going to move over for Pato. But if Ryan finds himself not on the lead lap, and he can give a little bit of,
Get wide so it makes it harder for someone to pass.
he
That
can help his
happens.
boy. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And I love seeing mentors and mentees race together. I think that's really fun. So props to you, McLaren, for committing the extra resources to enter the fourth car. Thank you for that.
Right. And then another two-car team adding a driver is Ed Carpenter. Ed is
With
adding
Ed
his,
Carpenter.
yes, Ed is adding himself to the seat. I mean, Ed has competed in IndyCar for a long time before he started his race team, and then was an owner driver for a number of years. One of the few to do that after AJ had stopped doing it.
Mhm.
So, he's been successful. His best finish was second on the year that Will Power won it, and he led he qualified fastest and led the most laps that year. So Ed is a
It's so
very capable driver.
It's so funny because in that situation, you want to be rooting for Ed, but also Will had never won the 500. And I think we were all just cheering on Will Power there. But at the same time, Ed has also never won the 500.
Right.
And while I don't necessarily see him, when I think of Takuma Sato, when I think of Helio Castroneves, I think of some guys who could win this race even
Yep.
now, even though they're a one-off entry. They're capable. I don't necessarily know that Ed in the Ed is going to win this race. I still, similar to the reasons I love seeing Ryan Hunter-Reay drive for McLaren, the relationship he has clearly built with his drivers is. I admire it so deeply. I think it's one
Yeah.
of the strongest team owner to driver relationships in the field. The
You
way he
can,
speaks about his drivers is
yeah.
so lovely.
And you can bet that those guys would love to see him win the race.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
they'd love to win it themselves, but how crazy would it be if Ed Carpenter won the Indy 500?
I genuinely think for Alex and Christian that seeing Ed win, well, it wouldn't mean as much as, and Alex has won, Christian is not. Well, it wouldn't mean as much as winning it themselves. It would probably be a very close second. So the story of Ed Carpenter means so much, and him being there is great.
Yeah.
I love that he's what I always think of him as an age contemporary of yours, but I know he's a little bit younger.
Well, quite a bit actually. He's 45 years old. But
Well, credit to you, Dad.
there you go. But he is, he's been a competitive race driver for a long time, and as long as he's fast and as long as he's safe, he should be running this race.
Yeah, I look forward to knowing how young he is. I look forward to him running this race for 10 more years. I can't stress enough how much I love the way he treats his drivers. I think him running this race is important for them. It's a team camaraderie issue. It's just great, especially when I think about Ed Carpenter at the 500. Obviously, Alexander Rossi is a driver who has won here, can win
Mhm.
ovals, but Christian Rasmussen is a driver who you feel has that sprinkle of like he's gonna win the 500. It's just
He's
a matter of
he certainly
when,
can.
when
Yes.
everything falls into place for him because his driving style is so very aggressive that it does also require kind of certain things to go right. But eventually he will have that year. And I just the notion of his kind of mentor being on the track with him for that moment is really exciting to think about. I love that he keeps running this race every year. I hope he
Yeah.
does for a really long time.
There's some really good stories in this. Another good story is Dreyer Reinbold Racing, right?
Mm.
This is a team that shows up only for the Indy 500 every year now. They used to do full-time IndyCar seasons, but now they have sponsorship deals. They show up for the 500, and this year they're running Connor Daly and Jack Harvey. Connor, we watched him last year run in Milwaukee, run a great race. Everyone was kind of surprised that he lost his seat this year, full-time seat, but this is a great opportunity for him to get on track and show everybody that he deserves to be in an Indy car.
Connor Daly
So,
is really exciting at Indy in particular because he's the closest that we have to a hometown boy. He's
right.
not from Indianapolis, but he is from Indiana. Grew up watching races here. I just really for me as an Indiana resident, I just really love the notion of the guy who's from here taking it home. And Connor, you're right. It wasn't there are many races where he's an oval specialist. We know that about him. I was bummed to see him lose his full-time seat. I understand the choice of Renus over Connor.
Hmm.
But I do think that Connor take all the money out of the equation. I do think that Connor's a guy who has given us enough that I'd love to see him continue to race every
There,
weekend.
there are some seats that may be available for
I'm not,
Connor
we're not,
Daly next year. We're not going to
yeah,
talk
we're not
about
going
that
to talk
now.
about that yet. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody. I'm just saying I love watching
Right.
Connor race on ovals. He is so wildly capable. And because he's local, he's got that extra motivation to win this race. Um,
Well, and
Dreyer
also,
Reinbold has a long history of entering
mhm.
successful cars into the 500. In fact, because they're a 500 only team now, they kind of have that extra focus that everybody else has to think about the whole season. They have a full year to prepare for this race.
Right.
Also, the exciting thing about Connor is that there are two drivers, and we'll get to the other one. There are two drivers here who might sort of view this as an audition for a full-time seat next year.
Yeah,
If Connor's
exactly.
got that motivation, I, just keep an eye out for his livery. Connor can be really exciting on the opening couple of laps.
Yep. And his teammate is Jack Harvey, who most people will know as the commentator on Fox Sports, but he is IndyCar veteran as well. And while he's never won a 500, he has been fast and
Hmm.
certainly brings a lot to the table. So I'll be interested to see how Fox uses him during the broadcast as
That's what
well.
I was going to say, because I think Fox did a really great job when Hinchcliffe drove in the NASCAR truck race at St. Petersburg. I
Mhm.
loved the coverage and how well they mixed in him as an announcer with him as a driver. I think that this is a really exciting time for Fox to choose to do something cool with Jack Harvey. Let's mic him up. I don't know. Let's do something fun. And at
Sure.
the very least, we're going to see Townsend Bell and Hinchcliffe and Buxton make some silly comments about how sweaty he is when he gets out of the car. And that'll be funny. It'll
There you
be charming for all of us to listen to.
Yes. And then the last confirmed driver for the 500 is
And
Jacob
he's our
Abel.
other guy. Yeah, he's our other guy who is auditioning for a seat,
I would think
right?
so. I mean, yeah, he was the 2024 Indy Next champion. He ran
Hmm.
last year. He didn't qualify for the 500. He was the one driver who got bumped. So, he hasn't raced an Indy 500 yet. So this will be his first. But, he's obviously wants to run full time, and he's running this race in a car entered by Able Racing, which is owned by his father.
Daddy, buy me a car. Why haven't you bought me a car for the 500, Daddy?
So,
I'm kidding, Jacob.
yeah,
I'm happy to see you here.
he,
I'm kidding, and I'm not.
yeah, but I mean, they run a full team in Indy Next.
Yes,
Able
they do.
Racing runs a full team, and they're very successful there. So for them to do an entry for the 500 is not a big deal. And if you can put up with Lance Stroll in F1, then we can put up with Jacob Abel in in the Indy 500.
And you know what? I can. And I one thing that I want to give Jacob a lot of credit for is the way he conducted himself in interviews after being bumped from the 500 last year, in particular in light of the Penske attenuator issue.
Right.
When asked about, are you frustrated that these teams that these cars that entered something that has now been deemed illegal are qualified and you're not, he was very much, I want to be the fastest on track. I don't want to be in the 500 because of a technicality. I want to run the 500. It's my dream to do it. I didn't do it today. I will do it next year. And you
Yeah.
know what? He is. So I put up,
Good for
Jacob.
him.
Let's see what you
Yeah.
got. I'm really excited for a kid achieving his dream. I like giving kids more time to show what they're capable of.
Right.
If we were evaluating the three rookies we have right now, Kyle Collette gets bumped, and I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
So
No,
give Jacob another shot.
I agree with you. I think, racing in general, obviously it's a put up or shut up kind of business,
Hmm.
but for rookies, you have to be patient to
Yeah.
a degree. And as long as he's making progress, then you can say, okay, good, let's keep moving forward, keep moving forward. When they stop making progress or regressing or, making the same mistakes over and over again, then okay, now you have to think about
Now
that.
you have to be more critical. But
Right.
I don't think that Jacob has shown us anything that makes me think that he doesn't belong on the grid with the other drivers. And I'm excited to see him get another shot. And maybe he can surprise all of us. But the driver I'm most excited about has not yet been announced.
Right. The rumor mill is hot and heavy. The 33rd car has not been confirmed, but all signs and Marshall Pruitt point to
Katherine Legge will be
yes.
driving the AJ Foyt. And look, if Marshall Pruitt is saying it's all but confirmed, then that's correct. Marshall Pruitt has the
Yeah.
most insider information of all of us. I feel comfortable saying that we're definitely going to see Katherine Legge on the grid again. She last raced the 500 in 2024 as a woman who is a fan of motorsport, who, like, kind of wishes I could drive that way. I think of the fact that there weren't a lot of ladies doing that when I was a kid. Having somebody like Katherine, who is a great ambassador for women in the sport and who puts up great results. Like,
Yeah.
this woman has the fastest qualifying record for a woman at IMS at the 500. And what I love the most about her is that she is an ambassador for women in the sport. In
Right.
2016, she attempted to enter an all-woman team in the 500, and they didn't get the funding together. But the fact that that was her focus, she could have found a ready-made one-off seat for herself. And
Right.
instead, she chose to highlight women. Look, this is a merit-based series, but representation still matters. And when you think about the lifespan of a professional race car driver, these kids get started so young. So giving young girls a hero like Katherine Legge, somebody who they can look up to like themselves. And I do feel the same way about Takuma Sato, by the way, for young Asian kids.
Hmm.
It, it's to be able to see somebody who looks like you racing the greatest spectacle in racing is super exciting. And then especially when they can back it up with results, it's even better. So Katherine Legge being on the grid for me that's just always a huge positive. I just look to her as a huge inspiration. And every time I see her drive, I think about the young girls. I think about 5-year-old Kaz and what it would have meant to me to see Katherine Legge race the 500. And it honestly like makes me a little emotional. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm thrilled.
there have been a number of women in the past, Sarah Fisher, Danica Patrick, obviously, go way back to
Hmm.
Janet Guthrie. The, women have raced in Indy on and off for a while. But they're having her having a woman in the 500, I think is important. I
And
really do.
I don't want her story in the 500 this year to be boiled down to like, oh, ladies, right?
Mhm.
But it's equally important to highlight. It's really
She's
she's there on merit. She's there
She's a
because she's a great driver.
championship driver, right?
Yeah.
She's won races in top level series. She is a very accomplished sports car driver, driving Lamborghinis and other things in the IMSA series over the years. So, this isn't oh, let's make room for a woman thing.
Yeah.
This is she's the best, one of the best drivers available, and AJ Foyt is putting her in that seat.
And I'm so excited to see it. I love watching Catherine Legg race. I can't wait. And she's like I said, she's had some mechanical issues in her last couple of runs, but she was looking strong in both of them before those mechanical issues occurred. I'm personally, I'm a fan of, you guys know who I'm a fan of in general, but this particular race, if Catherine Legg could win, that would make me probably cry.
I'm sure a lot of people would. It would be a fantastic moment for the Indy 500, fantastic moment for women in racing,
Mhm.
fantastic moment for Katherine Legge as an
Yeah.
individual. So, but
And I want to
let's
say this quickly for anybody who's listening who has daughters who are into racing. Buy those kids a go-kart. Let's get some more ladies racing. Let's do it. I'm sick of deciding between which man I want to root for. Let's get some ladies in there.
I'm all for it.
Me too.
So excellent. So that is the potential new driver lineup for the 500, giving you some highlights.
Now,
Um,
there is one more thing I want to talk about though.
okay.
There there is a team who has a car who's chosen not to enter. Now,
Yes.
Andretti Global obviously intended to enter Colton Horta in the Indy 500. Why wouldn't you? That's
Yeah.
the obvious choice. F2 scheduled a race alongside the Toronto Grand Prix. It was partially due to the cancellations over the month of April that Formula One, there were supposed to be
Right.
F2 races then, and then they had to be canceled. They had to be rescheduled. I actually, you guys have probably heard me spout my conspiracy theory multiple times that FIA scheduled the Toronto Grand Prix coinciding with the 500 on purpose because they're trying to steal viewer, whatever. I don't think this is that. I think when you're an F2 driver, they're not really thinking about what else you're doing. They're just like,
Right.
"Hey, you're F2, you do what I say. Come drive this race." But what it left is Andretti Global with a car that they have already told all of us is drivable, ready to
Ready to go.
go.
Yeah.
And they chose not to fill it with another driver. And there are,
So,
by the way, like a lot of other drivers I could think of to slip in. I mean, I don't know how contracts work out, but we've got two Prema drivers, one of whom sat pole here last year,
right.
who are not driving
I'm
an
sure they could
entry.
negotiate a one-off for him to come
Driver
run if
loans
they,
happen. It would be
yeah.
cool to see Robert Schwartzman.
Yep. There are other people out there who could take that seat and run competitively. Obviously, that's more money that Andretti would have to invest. But the engine's there. Again, we talked about it. The big limiting factor is the engines. Honda
Mhm.
has that engine to allocate to them. A lot of fans are upset. that
I
Andretti has chosen, apparently chosen, not to run a fourth car.
I understand that you want to allocate your resources to where they are going to have the maximum impact. And when you're talking about Andretti, this is a team that is trying to rise, that is trying to show us
Yep.
that they are a part of the class. I get it. You
They
want to
have
focus
three
your attention
cars.
on your three cars.
Yeah, they have three cars and three drivers who are capable of winning the 500.
Right. But I feel like implicitly, teams make an agreement entering the 500. And this is not contractual. This is just me as a fan. I
Right.
feel like teams entering the 500 make a commitment to give us the best show because this is the greatest spectacle in racing. I firmly believe that. This is my favorite weekend of racing
Mhm.
all year. I love it. So I just wish that they had decided to maybe take a small financial hit and put somebody interesting in another car. We would have a guaranteed bump day. We
Mhm.
love bump day. But also we just have a more competitive field overall. It, it
Sure.
it gives everybody something more to drive for when you know you might be eliminated. You might not even be able to start the race. Qualifiers are more interesting from the start when you know that there's that guaranteed bump. So I do wish Andretti was willing to do that for us this year. Sorry
Yeah,
guys, I've been very impressed with you this year, but I this is a bit of a like bummer from me.
sure. Well, that pretty much covers this topic. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's too bad we won't have extra drivers in a bump day because bump day is crazy.
fun.
You never know what's going to happen. The year after Bobby Rahal won the drivers' championship, he got bumped out of the 500,
The
right?
year after Marcus Ericsson, more recently, the year
Yeah,
after Marcus Ericsson won his 500, he participated in the bump shootout. He made the race, but it
right.
was wild to see last year's winner potentially not qualify.
Yeah. So it's not, that's the crazy thing about bump day, and it's a bummer we're not going to have it apparently for this race. But we will have the Fast 12 and Fast 6 shootouts, so that should be fun. And we're going to be there covering it all
Live in
live in
person.
person. So make sure to follow our social channels. She is at Fast Car Kaz. I am Harvey_drives, and you can find us on Instagram and TikTok and all the other places the kids hang out these days.
Yeah, wherever
So,
you want to look for us, we might be there. Entirely possible.
so we'll be posting a lot of content again, starting with the Indy GP and all the way through practice and qualifying, and then the 500 weekend itself.
Guys, go ahead and click that follow button and please drop us a comment. That's our most favorite thing when somebody comments or emails so that we can engage with you guys and hear what you want to see, especially from something like Indy where there are so many different things we can cover. We want to hear from you the most this weekend because we can provide you the kind of access that is difficult to get. So let's have some fun.
All right. So for Rides and Drives Team Radio, I'm Harvey and she's Kaz, and we will see you next week.
And you know what, you guys, for a little while longer, drive safe.